Well, governance expert at the Wits School of Governance, Professor Alex Van Den Heever, joins us now for more. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the late edition.
Good evening.
Now, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is set to become the first senior police official to appear before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee probing police corruption, political interference and criminal infiltration of the justice system. But just how significant is this appearance, both symbolically and substantively, and in terms of accountability and the transparency of policing oversight in South Africa?
I think it's very important. It's something that could have happened in the past. And is unfortunately only happening now when the matter is kind of reached a sort of a crisis level, where there has been a kind of an open communication and escalation to ensure that somebody deals with the issue. But under normal conditions, you would have expected that Parliament would actually be able to address this kind of issue as part of its normal duties. So that would be the normal duties of oversight as well as of investigating a matter and making recommendations. So I think that it is very good that it is happening. And it is not necessarily a duplication of the Commission of Inquiry itself. It's something that Parliament should do.
Well, this Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee has been tasked with probing corruption, political interference and threats to national security within the police service. What exactly is the mandate of this committee, and how far does its authority go in terms of compelling evidence?
Well, it does have the authority. So first of all, its mandate is essentially to assess whether or not there has been any interference in the independence and the functioning of the police services, and to look at structural issues so that it can make recommendations. Yeah. So its mandate is clearly laid out. But what it is in a position to do is to make recommendations to the National Assembly. It can refer matters for further investigation, but it also has the impact of making a number of issues transparent to the public as well. So there's enormous value in parliamentary processes in surfacing matters as well. Commission of Inquiry also does so. But the value of the information that come out of a process like this depends very much on whether or not the process is managed systematically, so that the way in which evidence is produced can be relied upon in any referral or in any final conclusion. So it will be very important for the committee to manage the disclosure of information in a very systematic way.
Now, Prof, is Parliament now stepping into a more investigative role that's typically associated with judicial commissions?
Well, it's important to distinguish between a commission of inquiry, which is essentially a creature of the executive of government, and a parliamentary committee, which in essence is meant to supervise. It's meant to have play a supervisory role over the executive. Mm-hmm. So there is a distinction. So a commission of inquiry is something that can in fact be influenced in its design and the way in which it's taken forward by the executive itself. So there's value in the Parliament actually taking forward a process separately. So it's a role it always has, and it's got and is functioning in terms of sort of constitutional powers given to it, and it's functioning in terms of this committee and other committees, or in terms of rules of Parliament, which give it the authority to actually conduct these routinely without a special request from anybody. Parliament can do it on its own. It doesn't require the President.
And the reason I'm asking this is that so many South Africans may confuse the two processes. Maybe if you could outline the key institutional and procedural differences between a parliamentary ad hoc committee and the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, and how do their legal powers, their evidentiary procedures and reporting outcomes differ? In other words, Prof, who can act on their findings and how binding are their recommendations?
Well, so essentially it is a structure that is able to investigate. It has powers to, through its procedures, rather than investigate a matter, call people to present information to it in what is effectively a kind of a tribunal. It can operate along those lines. And if it does so in a way that is consistent with procedural requirements in terms of the Constitution, so that some of that evidence can be relied upon. So that's the value of what will come out of a parliamentary process depends very much on the quality of the process itself. If it becomes, remember, it is still a very political process, and what is different to a commission of inquiry is there it is set up by the executive, but the executive theoretically selects an independent group of people who are meant to run that commission of inquiry in a completely impartial way, at arm's length from the executive and everybody else. A parliamentary committee is made up of politicians, and that may in some cases contaminate the process. If you want to have any value out of a process like this, then basically the political parties have to step back and allow this process to operate in a procedurally fair and consistent manner. So that's what they've laid out in terms of the requirements for the Ad Hoc Committee, is that they've actually laid out a framework which is meant to allow for the proper extraction of evidence. So it will run to some degree like a commission of inquiry in the way it operates, in that theoretically there should be a sort of a senior counsel who's separate from Parliament, who might lead the extraction of evidence and asking questions, etc., followed by committee members who might ask questions.
Yeah.
But that allows for information to come out. The extent to which it can be relied upon all depends on the quality of the evidence at the end of the day. But remember that there is another aspect that can come out of this process, and that is recommendations on structural reform. And both the Commission of Inquiry and this Ad Hoc Committee could make very important recommendations on new structures to protect the independence of the police and other structures that form part of the sort of security system in South Africa. The greatest problem here is that there are conflicts of interest that are coming through. There is political contamination that is through political actors, members of the executive. The police appear to be influenced, and that becomes a problem that might be a consequence of structure rather than just the conduct of individuals. So both the Commission of Inquiry and the Ad Hoc Committee can investigate that particular aspect, because it cures the problem long term. And we don't only deal with a bunch of bad actors today, we prevent bad actors from being able to from influencing the police in the future. We appear to have structural flaws in the system that need to be corrected. So I think that's probably where great value will come out of these processes if they work effectively, not just who's been bad here, but what's structurally wrong.
All right, Prof, I suppose this is just a wait and see game to see whether, this will mark a new phase for Parliament to assert whether this particular institution will be more assertive and functional for Parliament in terms of, pushing for accountability within and curbing corruption within the country's security cluster. Great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us.